This week on the podcast, the one and only Riva Starr.
One thing that makes me feel real good is that no one can put any rules in the way I make music. And I was blown away. I released this track yesterday. How can you tell it was a failure? My idea is that the music needs to breathe, need to get into people's lives in a way or another. That's my rule. You know, if it's something that I would play in the club, that's going on the label.
And we are live. How are you, mate?
I'm good, man. How's things?
Yeah, good. Glad we could get you on.
Yeah. We did it. Thanks for having me.
No, thanks for coming on, man. 4 albums deep. Life Gives You Lemons, Definition of Sound, Curveballs, and now the new one, Keep Me on the Dance Floor. I forgot you actually did Life Gives You Lemons. That, for me personally, in my career at the time, that album was like iconic. Like,
oh, really? Thanks.
Dude, it was like, I was going through your catalog when I just got back, and I was like, fuck, that album was so good back in the day. And I was, 2010, so I was 20 when that came out. And yeah, it was fucking powerful, that album.
I see more the album, I see it more like a stream of consciousness, you know, like I had not many structures. I was coming from breakbeat. I wasn't quite fitting in any scene. I was pretty much building up my own vibe. That's the reason why I released the label. I launched the label around the album release in 2010 in March.
Yeah.
For a reason, because obviously, you know, when you start releasing on other labels, you kind of gotta fit in the bill, right? Yeah. And I never wanted to do that. I always wanted to manage to sign records with my own take, and that makes it way more difficult. So, and also very limited, because obviously, you know, you can't. So yeah, the album was more of a collection of, you know, let's have fun, fuck it tunes.
Yeah.
I did sessions for the first time in the studio. I did a session with Trim, who at the time was in the crew with Wiley and all the others, and he delivered an amazing tune, Dance Me, which I think is still pretty fresh.
Yeah.
It was the time where I was still connected, you know. Obviously, the album was Made to Play, so connected with Jesse and One Stroke. I started on Dirty Bird, so first EP was on Dirty Bird. So, and it was like going out of that wonky, fidgety scene and getting into the more straight up house, sort of vibe. So it was like a transition. It's a nice collection. Some of them I was actually rediscovering. Some of them, like the jazzy one. Because I did a collab with Close Counters on the new album. They are jazzy musicians from Australia, and they were playing it again, and they made me remind about that track. You end up forgetting about things, eh?
Dude, you forget about everything. It's like, I forget that you kind of came from the Dirty Bird camp as well. Same with me, right? Like it wasn't my beginning in house music, but it was the thing that kind of brought me to the scene, or brought me to the market, as we call it, right?
You actually did a release on Snatch as well.
I did, a long time ago.
A long time ago. You were pretty much starting.
I can't
remember the title right now, but I remember that you were, it was still starting. Or
I'm checking that out right now because I've got to find it. What was that?
I can't remember the title now, but
did good. I, or was it a remix?
I'm pretty sure it was a track, but yeah.
Was it really?
Can't remember the title right now.
Was it I Was Drunk?
Well, you possibly did a remix as well.
That was yours. Yeah, I'm trying to find it. The Bleeps? No, that was ZBS.
Yes. No, that was Zombie Disco Squad.
I don't know. Great record, man.
Yeah. That's, you know, like when I go back to my label's catalog, a lot of the stuff is still sounding fresh today, and that makes me really proud, because that's not easy. It's something that and it's nice because I have a nice pool of records, and every now and then I go and fish some of the older records and play it, and some of the people discover it, and we see it from also Bandcamp and on Beatport or whatever, that people keep buying older stuff, which for me is a win, because music should be timeless where possible.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think I have released on Snatch.
Well, I probably think so, but
Snatch record. No,
maybe I'm wrong.
I have. It's not that. Is it that one? No,
you definitely did something on Snatch. I will ask my label manager.
What is that?
But maybe a remix or something.
I think a remix.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Like, Snatch has been a huge part of house music culture since 2010, right?
Thanks.
How do you stay consistent with a record label and your own artist project?
Just not following trends and not listening to the different hundreds of people that pretend to have a voice on what you do, and just follow your guts,
Yeah.
I always had like a very simple rule on the label, on my signings, and I sign everything personally. So I listen to each and every demo personally, because you never know when you get the curveball that maybe another A&R doesn't get, because they think to know where my head is going.
Yeah.
I strongly believe that a club label is very connected to the A&R of the label, or the A&Rs, because it needs to follow the A&R instinct.
Yeah.
Right. So if I'm a DJ, it's even better. And that's my rule. If it's something that I would play in the club, that's going on the label. Yeah. If it's not, even because it doesn't sound good, either we try and help them to make it sound good, like doing A&Ring the old school way, or it's a no, let's try again next time. It has to be 100% fitting into my sets. And because I'm ever changing, it's pretty hard to have even other A&Rs, because they can do a selection, but I'm always afraid that they will miss that odd curveball, that will make the label more special, because I see something in it,
Do you like, this is quite a personal question, which some people don't like to talk about, but do you actually make money from the record label?
I never got one penny from the label, simply because I want to reinvest everything that the label earns into promotion, into, as you can see, we spend a lot of money on artworks and stuff. We used to spend, obviously, for special projects. Even my album now, we got a very good artist, David Shillinglow, doing all the painting and drawing on the album. And so we do promotion and stuff. So we like to actually invest the money back into the music, and maybe pay for musicians, and try and, widen our horizon in terms of music. And so yeah, but the label is actually healthy. Yes, you can make money if you do things truly, and follow your gut, I suppose. I mean, that's the way I do it anyway.
How do you, for somebody that's starting a record label now in 2025 though, like how do you kind of advise them to go about doing that? Because it's changed. So like you have a back catalog of thousands of records, right? Like you've been since 2010, it's 15 years of Snatch, right? Which is crazy. And that's 15 years of releasing, like, it's a lot of music, right?
Yeah.
Like, catalog with a record label generates cash. Some do, some don't, but you have a big catalog there. Like, starting out in this day and age where you started Snatch when you would make money on Beatport, right, as a record label, and record labels were very powerful in starting artist career, right? There's a
Hmm.
lot of, you go back to your back catalog, there's a lot of artists that have been on Snatch that are big artists now, right? And even popping off in the last like couple 2 3 years, where you released them back in
Yeah,
five
I mean,
8 years ago, right? Like
we did
I've seen
another
I've seen
BB, Croots,
Matt,
like everyone.
Matt Sassari, like all those guys, like they're all on there at some point. Um, but it's hard to do that nowadays because everyone's got their own record label.
They're on agenda as well, and it's a bit more clicky, even more than before.
Do you think?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
Like because everything is shifting more into the image, appearance sort of thing, sort of, field. So even like if I choose a record label, I choose it because mainly because of the music, right?
yeah,
Because I like what they release, and I want to be part of that scene because I like it. But sometimes I see from producers' comments that it's more about which cool name is releasing on the label, which kind of like parties the label has.
yeah.
And even if the labels goes all over the place, that's fine. We can release there because obviously we got
The parties.
the parties, or we got those names are releasing there, so I want to be part of it. So like the music is slowly going down the ranking towards the fourth to the fifth place. And it's difficult these days. I mean, I wouldn't know, but I think it's hard to start a label now. Everyone has his own label. There's so many tracks, and they're all very similar. I still believe though that if you do original music, something that is really standing out, you can you know make a nice little project and can stand out. But it's hard work for
I
sure.
I want to agree with you, but I'm also don't necessarily agree. Like my artist side of me is wanting to agree with that and to go, yes, like do something individual and you will have success eventually. But I just don't know if that's the case now.
No, I'm not saying that. It's not. It's not. Otherwise, everyone will be successful. But the best way of doing it is the best shot you can give at it is
Yeah.
to actually try and focus on what you believe it's the right thing for you. If
Mm,
you have it, it's gonna go through. That's my opinion. But obviously, it's super difficult, and there's so many obstacles on the
yeah.
way. Uh, I really like this gatekeeper sort of concept that is popping out everywhere at the moment, and that's true. There's so many gatekeepers that separate you
Yeah.
from achieving the results. The gatekeepers on the record labels or on the music exposure, the gatekeepers on the numbers of whatever you need to achieve. If not, they wouldn't consider you as an artist.
Yeah.
The gatekeepers that would give you exposure at some gigs, even if you're an amazing DJs, that doesn't count anymore.
Yeah.
Like there's so many gatekeepers that separate you that obviously it's getting harder and harder for sure.
Yeah. But also there's always been gatekeepers, right?
Yeah, it seems though it's getting very extreme nowadays.
Dig deeper into that. Talk to me. Tell me in what way, because you've been doing this for years, right? Like you and I both have been doing this for a long time, and it's evolved. But I'd love to get your thoughts on like how it's harder now.
It's harder because there's less of the taking the chance and widen, I don't know, the lineups, or try something different, because obviously there's so much money involved.
Yeah.
Even more like in the live sector, there's so much money involved, and there's always so many uh, the promoters, or I don't know, the agents or whatever, they just I suppose they fight to get the best lineups and to actually get as many festivals as possible. So you see, sometimes there's always really, I mean, honestly, there's always the same names.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't think it's true, feel free to tell me. But I see always the same names. There's a few boutique festivals, of course, that try something different, but mainly you see same lineups over and over. There's always this these things makes me laugh a lot when they publish the agency cake from the Ultra Music Festival.
Mm.
And when you have all the agencies that have the amount of DJs that are on the stages there. Um, but yeah, but it's everything is getting a bit more shrinked, less possibilities for DJs to play in situations and stuff. Obviously, there's up and downs in terms of profile for DJs. I would have never dreamt in my wildest dreams to still be able to go and play somewhere after so many years of Riva Starr. It's almost 20 years now that I launched the project.
Wow.
So it's not a complaint about me. It's just analyzing how difficult can be if you are not the flavor of the month, or if you don't have like a TikTok viral tune or whatever to jump on lineups, or if you are not a social sensation because you have a natural talent in communicating on socials. The game is different. I started with some different rules, so I try and accept the rules that are more acceptable for me. That makes sense.
Yeah.
All the others, I just scrap them because it doesn't do for me. And I suppose it's when you get to the level to the point where most of the rules are not acceptable, it's probably when your career is about to finish, because I suppose you are able to go ahead if you accept, and if you make peace with some of the rules, and you actually find a way to connect with those rules with your way of doing things. But you get to the point eventually where it's not possible anymore, and then you call it a day and you do something else, or you modify. I
Have you ever
that's how it
felt?
is.
Have you ever felt like you could get at that point?
I don't know. I mean, no one is. That one thing that makes me feel real good is that no one can put any rules in the way I make music.
Yeah.
So I'm in my happy place when I'm in my studio. For everything else, if I'm not independent, that's why being independent is always my first recommendation where possible. Like the feeling of being independent and do whatever you want, whatever you feel it's right for you and for the people around you. It's crucial even to push things forward, because once you start getting into the loop of what's right at the moment or whatever, you end up losing a bit of the creativity and the willing to try things without the pressure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, in the studio, I'd like to make music for as long as I can. So that's something that still keeps me positive about my job, whatever you want to call it. I wouldn't consider it as a job. Say that I'm still happy. I'm playing a lot still. I'm not sure for how long, because it's pretty tiring. I'd like to switch more on the production side at some point, and dedicate a certain period of the year just to gigs, because I still think it's important to play your productions around and test them. It's part of the production process for me.
Yeah. No.
I was suffering around, probably like everyone else, around lockdown, where you couldn't actually test the music you were making, either on the sound side, the mix down, and also the edits. It's important to see people's reaction and also your feeling when you're mixing it with other tracks.
I think also during that period, like for me, I released records that I don't even play. Like not because I didn't like the records. It's just they just weren't records I would have ever have played, but they came out because I was writing music that I wanted to write at the time, but I would never have DJ'd it and still wouldn't DJ it. Is for me, it was a period of like, well, we can just do whatever the fuck we want, even more so. So let's just do it.
Which was fun. I mean, I did a Northern Soul cover
Yeah.
with a soul jazz musician from London, Gavin Holligan, and it did quite well on streaming. And it's a song that was born from the clubbing activity, and we were like, let's have fun in the studio. Let's do a jam. I really like this song. Should we do a cover? You do things also in the context you're doing these things. Like
Totally. Yeah.
so. Yeah, I actually, I actually enjoyed, staying at home, spending more time with the family, and having this different approach to productions around
Yeah.
those months.
Have you always had a family as Riva Starr?
Um, my first son, in terms of family, like son,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
kids,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, they were born. uh, It's fun because in March 2010, I released my album, I launched my label, and I had my first kid. That was a
Same.
month. That was a month. So yeah, but I moved to London with my partner. So yes, I've always had a
Yeah.
family. But because she's been with me since I started, so she knew all my work ethic and all the passion I put in it,
Mm,
and always obviously this mutual understanding of the efforts you do to make things happen, and she understands deeply how important music is for me,
mm.
and I've always tried and keep the balance, which is important.
What is that
Um,
balance for you? Like, what is that for you? How does that stand in your life to kind of keep a balance? I don't know if balance is always the right thing because it's different for everybody, right? But like, how do you negotiate that?
it's different from everybody, and it's
Yeah,
different according to the time of your life as well, because
yeah,
kids
yeah,
grow up, uh, situation change in people's life.
yeah.
So I suppose the balance is something that comes very natural. You don't even have to negotiate with your partner.
Mm,
If you get to the point where you have to negotiate things and they don't come naturally from the mutual understanding, it means that there's some starting to be some problems.
yeah,
We've always had this like thing of like talking about things and discussing, and the solutions, the choices came very naturally. Um, so I wouldn't talk about negotiating things, but just understanding the situations we are in, and the the lifetime, the life moment that people are going through.
yeah,
For instance, now my kids are getting into that teenagerhood thing, so I'd like to spend more time with them. Sometimes I take them with me,
yeah.
um,
Love that.
and it's a different sort of balance again from even 5 years ago. So
Yeah. No,
yeah, it's
it's
a constant keeping you on the edge, and makes you feel a bit more careful about what's going on around you, because it's so easy. It's such an intensive job, this one, and it's
yeah,
so immersive, even more nowadays, where you have to take care. We spoken at length about this a while ago. You have to take care of everything, even the communication, and not just the music or traveling or DJing or choosing the music, that sometimes you get distracted, and I'm not saying I'm perfect. I get distracted all the time,
yeah,
but I try, like having the family around me and trying and put effort in understanding what's their situation in life right now, makes me just understand what I can take on, and how far can I go, and make me choose about maybe not taking that 3 weeks tour, or not taking that week session in Ibiza, even if it's nice, because you know maybe it's better to spend more time with the family, or you know
yeah. No, I totally get it, and I think it's also so hard when what we do is it's only us doing it, right? Like obviously we have teams around us, but like it's only us that can do it. And I
for
think
sure.
everybody obviously wants you to go and do everything, but it's also having that understanding of like, well, you can do all the gigs under the sun, but what are you doing it for? It's like, is what's the purpose in just doing
Yeah,
something that I've been trying to work out over the last like probably 6 months, maybe year of like, what is the whole purpose in all of this? Is there a purpose in all of this? Have you worked that out?
The purpose is always for the work side. It's the music. You do it for the music. You do it for being able to keep doing music, making music, and keep doing whatever you do. Like I feel myself more of a producer first and foremost, and then a DJ as well. So my biggest nightmare has always been like not being able to make music anymore. So and then obviously you want to provide for your family, and then I think it's not less important is the communication, the exchange with the fans, the people that come and see you, the experience, and I personally love to travel the world, and now after I've done it so many times, and probably the same as you, I have so many friends all around the world, and I start getting very familiar with a lot of places around the world that I get to the point where I miss them places almost like I miss home, So I need to get there and see my friends and see some of the familiar places that I've visited in the past. And when you get there and you have a bit more time, you live them more in a more intense way, because you have locals that make you dive directly into the reality there, which I love. Rather than just go there as a tourist and have a look at the usual places. So there's several factors. I'm not sure if there's just one purpose, and I'm not sure if one should just look for it. I don't think it's correct, it's right, or whatever. At least for me, because you do what you do because you feel like doing it. The very same moment you don't feel like doing it, it's probably there's probably something wrong and you need a change.
Yeah, man, you're right. Keep Me on the Dance Floor, new album. Why are you still writing albums?
Because I love it.
I love that.
Why are you still writing albums?
Well, I've only done one. I did that last year, and
so it's pretty recent.
Yeah, November last year, and it was amazing. I loved the process. Did I love releasing it? No. Like, there was a level of like, I put so much expectations on my work. But did I love the writing process? 100%. Do I love that it's out? 100%. Do I love dealing with the business side of album?
Oh my God.
No, absolutely not.
I remember something that Cash was saying, Green Velvet. It's like sometimes you put so much expectation on a track you strongly believe in, and you think it's gonna smash it and whatever, and then it doesn't do anything, and then you do a track in half an hour and just blows up. So it was about managing your personal expectations about music, and that was my main effort in this album. So first of all, making an album for me is important because it allows me to express myself in a different way rather than just a single, which, as you know, it's different. You just go bang for a club single or whatever. It doesn't necessarily have to be, for me, just a club tools. I wanted to try songs and musicians and writing as well. And that's what I did. And I met so many beautiful, amazing musicians and songwriters, persons between LA, New York, London, and Napoli. And I had first and foremost an amazing experience. I wanted to challenge myself to go one step forward from what I've done in the past, which have been mainly club stuff. Apart from the 2013, the Hand in Hand, which was a bit more indie focused. And like music side, artistic side, working with David Shillinglow on the artworks, it was amazing. Connecting with all the people that and the team that worked around the album with so much passion, amazing. Obviously, I did it independently because I didn't want to follow any one agenda, and that's more of a pain because obviously I'm a control freak. I did my own A&Ring for each and every remix. I spoke to each and every one, managers. I wanted to be hands-on on everything, but obviously I have a full team working hardly on so many other things. But obviously, that could kill a bit your vibe because there's so many things to take care of. But the thing that kept me in check and balanced and didn't make me burn out was that I didn't put expectations on the album. I was 100% happy about the music, to the point that my idea was that this album needs to do what it has to do on the long term. It's a long haul journey. All right. I remember, and this is such a ridiculous event that happened when I released Vicino Mare, which is this track I released last year in Napolitan. The day after, a guy from a record label in Italy called me. On a Saturday, I was hanging out with my kid playing football, and I got this call from Italy, and I thought it was something from the family. I don't know. I replied. I answered and was like, "Hey, Steph, you released your track yesterday. It didn't go well, so I'm offering you to remix this Italian whatever artist to do a cover and stuff." And I was blown away. I released this track yesterday. How can you tell it was a failure? How can you tell that after a day? So that's the mentality right now, right?
Yeah.
And if you fall into the trap of the first week, if you don't get the amount of streaming, those playlists and stuff, your career is over, your track is over. If you fall into that trap, and so many kids nowadays are falling into that trap, I don't think you will be able to make music on the long term, and I don't think it's the right approach. My idea is that the music need to breathe, need to get into people's lives in a way or another. And once you release it, it's not down to you anymore. It's out there, and music takes a path of its own according to anyone that listen to it, get to bump into it. I mean, I got my second single is now almost 1 million streams, and we didn't get any major playlist. It's just word of mouth. So I think if the music is real, is good, obviously, it will find a place, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the mainstream hit that everyone wants to do at some point or whatever. I think expectation just end up killing the vibe. That's for sure.
I totally agree. I think that's where I've fallen down in the previous year, where the expectations of I put such high expectations on records, and the art of releasing music again just isn't fun. Which then what's the point? Like, I love making it, right? And I love playing it. But when you release it, which is realistically, you're giving it to the world, it's the time when it's not your record, it's the world's record. If you don't enjoy that, why even do it?
Correct. And one thing that really helped me in the process was to actually get the help of someone who could actually, help me communicate what I was releasing. So nowadays, it's everything so fast paced that people just don't pay enough attention. Oh yeah, Riva released another track. 2 seconds, boom. They don't even get to know what I want to mean with the track, if there's a meaning. They don't even know if it's not another club track that I used to release, or a song, if I released it with some, musicians or whatever. So having someone who can help me in communicating what the project was about, in the right pace for the actual times, that really helped me more into feeling more secure about what I was releasing, and also from the people's side to actually welcome it in a different way. So we got people prepared about what's coming, if that makes sense, because it was such a different project for everything I've done before, that I really needed to prepare the soil for them to welcome it in a different way. Whereas before, I remember every time I was trying to do something different, I used to have, hate comments. And I remember one comment I will never forget. Someone replied, someone that wasn't even following me replied on one of my posts on Twitter, like, "Can you please stop with your stream of mediocrity. I was like, oh, all right, cool. This is for what? As if you don't like my music, you can even just go elsewhere. Even follow him. He said, why this hate?
Yeah.
And it was so aggressive back in the day that I had to actually make a plan, even for my mental health, because I've always been very eclectic,
Yeah.
as you are as well. Like and you understand that it's difficult to be too eclectic in a world where music is seen as slots and scenes.
We were talking about this when we bumped into each other the other day, right, in London. It's like,
Yeah,
it's very hard to have the big record or the big records nowadays. And I don't know, like, what is the big records? Like, because there's records that every DJ's playing that isn't streaming well. There's records that streaming well that DJs aren't playing. There's records that do well on TikTok that then do well on social media that then stream well, but no one's really playing. And then there's the big records that is doing well on streaming, doing well on TikTok and Instagram, and every DJ's playing, right? But like, to get that the third option, it has to fit in.
yeah. You have to be in a few different boxes at the same time,
Yeah.
all ticked
Yeah.
together, which could be, you can be the hype of the day, you
Yeah.
do a track that kids love to dance, and at the same time have some streaming power. I suppose nowadays these boxes can be ticked by artists that have a very young following. I
Yeah.
see it with my kid, like he loves, I don't know, people like Playboy Carti, and he listen continuously to the same songs over and over, like racking up thousands of plays for him. So that's a massive difference in the streaming, on the streaming side. But I don't think there's a rule. I don't think there's a recipe. Like my thing is you do what you love. At least if it doesn't work, you are still happy that you put out a work that you are very happy with. And
Yeah.
for me, even just the feedback from someone that like generally loved the record makes me feel good.
Yeah.
But obviously I'm in a different position. I understand the frustration for the younger producers, for someone that wants to build up a career out of it.
I was talking to a friend about this earlier, and it's like, we're fortunate that we've built a fan base and that we have a touring career, right? And I think coming out starting now, it's even harder, because it used to just be make consistent music and the DJs will support you, and you might sign to a record label. Let's say, for instance, for us it was Dirty Bird. Like, they have events, they put you on, but even the record labels that have events aren't putting the artists that they sign on now. It's all, how can we sell tickets? So as starting out, it's even harder, but also yet even easier in a sense. You've got social media, so you can do it all yourself.
Yeah, if you're the social media kind of type.
Yeah.
I was watching like a reel from someone who actually was a very good musician, had very good songs, but he wasn't really he wasn't really cut for the social medias, and that's a problem, because you have some good music, but obviously the actual state of things really penalize you, because you don't actually go
Yeah.
through and reach people through your posts, because it's not your thing, or maybe you're shy,
Yeah.
or so. Yeah, I know it's different, but there were different sort of problems back in the days anyway,
Of
so
course. Of
it's
course.
just different times, different sort of problems.
The problems
And
back in the
so
day were even signing it. Like, to sign a
yeah,
record back in the day, like, I remember trying to sign to Dirty Bird, like, just to even get an email response from Barclay took fucking months.
they released my track 1 year, exactly 1 year after I signed it. And can you imagine, it was my first release, and I was like, come on, And in fact, because I signed an EP on Front Room, which
Yeah.
was the other label from Jesse Rose, they had Solid Groove and all them guys. They ended up releasing it first, then Dirty Bird.
Yeah.
Even though Dirty Bird was my first release that I signed as Riva Starr, because the weight, well, at the time Dirty Bird was so hype, you know, was one of the best labels around.
It's really interesting how things get fashionable and not fashionable and go in and out of hype.
Why do you think is that for Dirty Bird, for instance?
I don't think it's necessarily just Dirty Bird. I think there's multiple reasons for multiple things, but I just think it's sick, the way fashion is, and I class that as art, music, all of those things. Things go round in like a 20-year, 10, maybe music's a bit quicker, but like a 10-year cycle where like I think the next sound that's going to come back is like the Bloghouse era.
Yeah.
And I think it's like what we grew up on, right? Or what was popping off at the time when we first started, that will come back. And I think it's let's talk, for instance, Dirty Bird. They had their time. They had a moment where they went uncool, and now it wouldn't surprise me in 5 years' time they're back again.
Yeah, even picking up older tunes, they're still fresh to me.
Exactly, they're fucking
Most of them.
Yeah, they're so good.
And I also think it's difficult to keep the consistency going. I see it with my label as well. It's pretty hard, you know, like
It's really hard.
some producers are on top form for a certain period of time, and then maybe they become a bit more known and they start touring more and they end up losing they're not starved, you know, they don't starve to make big tunes anymore because they satisfied from touring and they do average track of, you know, like there's always this circle, and I've fallen into that trap again as well, because obviously when you start touring a lot, you don't have the focus, the time, or you end up seeing so many different things around you that really influence you and make you lose the focus, the point.
I think it's like what they say about comedians, right? Is before a comedian becomes famous, they're joking about stuff that everyone can relate to, and then the comedian becomes famous joking about the things everyone can relate to, and then gets so famous that their life completely changes, and then struggles to, like, people struggle to relate to it because they're like, what the hell do we joke about? Because our lives are very different to who's watching us. I think it's exactly the same in music. It's like, look what music is doing now. We're literally going into EDM again. We're in the early 2010s, like EDM culture now, where like you have art, which is great, and I'm happy for everyone that's doing it. But you've got artists selling out stadiums again, and
Yeah.
what music has, you can't play deep house to 40,000 people. You have to play absolute bangers, right? Like, so it's like, well, that changes the music. And then everyone's like, oh, I want that artist to play my record, so I have to make music for them. And I think that's what's happening now. Is it's it's all cyclical. It goes round and round. And I think at this moment in time, it doesn't. We're at that period where we're seeing the EDM culture come back.
Yeah, but then again, I think you don't have to necessarily follow the what's in the stadium, and if you produce deep house, nobody forces you to produce that stadium thing, and you can target all the DJs and keep your sound idea alive, and you know, and going. You know, it's always down to your choices
Totally.
and
But I
what
get
you
it.
want to do.
But again, like, you remember the EDM time. Like, there was a point where a lot of DJs saw the money, followed the money, had a successful 3 or 4 years, and then got absolutely burned.
Oh, I saw this thing so many times through my career. Like even when I moved from breakbeat to house,
Yeah.
right? So breakbeat, I used to run this project called Maddox. I used to
Maddox,
release
yeah.
on Finger Licking and Mantra Breaks with Santos and others. I did a track on the Plum DJs album and everything, and breakbeat was amazing.
Yeah.
Till the point that it got really stale, no more ideas, repetition of, and then there was all this sound coming from America, from Von Stroke or Jesse Rose from the UK, where they were mixing some of the breakbeat and drum and bass sounds with house and hip
Yeah.
hop, and it was so refreshing for me because I was coming from hip hop, drum and bass, and then breakbeat. And then I targeted that sound that was really exciting me, and I jumped on that thing and started the River Star project. But at the time where breakbeat was becoming stale, there was electro house that was huge, if you
Yeah.
remember, huge. So pretty much 90% of the breakbeat producers that decided to stop doing breakbeat, they moved into this big electro house bubble that finished after a couple of years,
Yeah.
or even less. And they ended up being confused and burned, and they wouldn't know what to do because obviously they jumped on a bandwagon that was kind of like, burning out, instead of actually feeling, trying to feel what their next move in terms of sound would have been. And I spoke at length to some of the DJs, and they actually said, yes, I saw bloody electro house everywhere. It was number one on Beatports everywhere. And it felt like the only solution for me to jump on there and try and grab gigs. And probably the same situation happened with Deep House at some point. That was huge in the UK. With EDM, at some point, I remember it super well. EDM was everywhere around Swedish House Mafia and Get Time, whatever. It seemed like if you didn't play EDM, you'd better stay at home. Yeah. So it's difficult. It's difficult when you're in those situations where a genre is so hyped that feels like everywhere is just that thing. You kind of get into panic mode.
It's really interesting now because you have like 3 or 4 different genres that are doing that now, right? So you have like the kind of music, Afro house music vibe. You have like the anima, melodic techno. You have the really hard techno. And then you also have like the Chris Stussy deep house. There's like 4 kind of genres that are all fucking massive because there's so many more people in the scene. Like there's so many more people listening that it's amazing that you can have 4 big genres at one time. But I do feel like by having those genres, a lot of the scene, you know what you're going to get. For example, I did a remix competition for my album, and like you get, okay, so like it says underneath the genre before you listen to it, like Afro house. I know exactly all the elements that they're going to use in that one record. Like I know what it's going to sound like before I even click on, or it says melodic techno. I know it's going to have this fucking stab that Anima puts in his records. Like the sad thing is that how do you remain being individual as an artist? How do you remain being a true artist rather than just sounding like everybody else?
It's the same thing I was telling you when I told you about signing your records to other labels. The struggle was trying to release on those labels, keeping your take on it, right? It's the same thing here. When you mention that there are 4 very well-defined scenes, by the time you tell me there are 4 well-defined scenes, what I'm hearing is like, okay, shit is getting formulaic because there's going to be so many copycats there with no ideas jumping on the bandwagon, and maybe we're doing something totally different before. They are not fucking feeling it 100% to make something original or expand it in a different way. That, you end up having what you just described. So just copycat tunes to replicate or try and replicate the success of, I don't know, kind of music. But Adam Port and me, they released on Snatch as well at the early stage as well. They've been doing this for years. So they know they wouldn't get lost. They know if where they can go and which sound they can use to make it still fresh, and unless their creativity expires by adapt, so because they're very, very good producers and lovely people, by the way. So when you jump on a bandwagon without really understanding the elements of the sound, you can't create anything original, honestly.
Totally agree, man. Totally agree. Let's go back to the album. I think 7 records have Harry Stone on.
Maybe a bit less, maybe 6 or 5. 6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6. Why?
We just had a vibe. We just had a ball, and the first time we met is coming from a different sort of vibe, and it took us a while to. It's a bit like when you have to choose the right language to understand each other, and the good thing was that with the first session we did it with Dario Bassolino, who is a keyboard player, musician, very good musician from Napoli, and he really mediates with the harmonies and stuff. And of that first session, we made a tune that stayed on my computer for 6 months without me paying that much attention. But then I got so taken from the record that I decided to make another session with him when Dario was around in London, because he was promoting his album. And in 4 days, we wrote like the extra 5 tunes you hear on the album, no fillers. It's just when you know that that's one of the right persons to be in the studio with, and he's a lovely guy. I really like his lyrics. I really like his melodies. I really like his attitudes. No ego. It's a team play, which for me is crucial in the studio. When you go to the studio sessions and there's so many egos around, nothing really good comes out. Because everyone tries to do things to prevail the others instead of actually connecting and build up something together as a unicum, if that makes sense.
Totally.
So yeah, that's why. And so this is the reason why. And then I had the chance of doing more sessions with many more singers and writers, and I actually have a second album almost ready, basically. Really? Yeah, because so many good artists, and this is happening also thanks to the collaboration of the publisher and some musicians, friends, and other publishers that I collaborate with. That helped me, locking myself in rooms with people of value, if that makes sense. And also I believe that because I'm starting to release more and more songs, it makes it easier to tickle the interest of people that do that sort of things, but maybe with a different style, and so it's getting slightly easier and easier to get better people, better writers, better musicians, or even names that you wouldn't have dreamt of before to be locked in the room, and that's something that I love, and I see it as a challenge because that really pushes me to do better and better going forwards.
So do you feel like you just want to write albums now instead of doing the generic single? I don't mean that in a bad way, but like we're so used to writing singles, and I think there's something really beautiful about the world that we don't really live in the electronic world of albums. Like you and I, among a handful of others, are kind of outliers with it when it comes to writing albums whilst being known for being DJs. I have this romanticism of just releasing albums and just going on album cycle on and off and on and off and on and off. I have probably another album or 2 albums that I could release now.
Nice.
But do I want to release it as an album? I'm not too sure, if that makes sense.
Totally.
So I think, like, where are you at with that? Of like, after releasing this album, obviously it's only just come out in the grand scheme of an album lifespan. Do you want to just keep releasing albums, or do you want to take a break, sit back, assess the situation, and then release again?
I'm definitely gonna keep releasing albums, but obviously because times are changing so quickly. I also used this album release, this album rollout as a test to understand what works and what not. Fair enough, we made a lot of mistakes, but we made a lot of really good choices.
What mistakes did
Mostly
you make?
well, like in terms of management, and I'm not going into details, or maybe how to plan the singles or the remixes behind the singles, or maybe not waterfalling singles and losing on streams, for instance. Like technical things as well, and also the reaction time or the acceptance time from people, the headroom they have to accept new music, every how much time you can release another track. So I'm definitely going to keep releasing albums. I'm going to try a different strategy next time, but yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's essential to release albums because it really fulfills my um, productions itches. Like
Yeah.
I enjoy it. I'm gonna start with a different timing, releasing singles, give it more life to singles. But since the first single, having already the album concept idea in mind, even if it's not 100% ready,
Yeah.
sound wise, path wise, lyric wise, concept wise, have like a 90% idea of how the album would be as a next step to the previous one, and still with some sort of connection. So my idea is that from here to 3 years, I want to keep releasing songs
Yeah.
and exploring the different sides of my idea of where I should head to. And also, I don't want to give up on my club side as well. So I'm going to have different projects like Hyperloop. There's going to be like Riva Starr presents Hyperloop or Riva Starr presents Soul Speech, where people will know that when I do Riva Starr presents Hyperloop, it's going to be a bit more the techno side of Riva, Soul Speech, the housier side, more for the club. Whereas with Riva, I just want to go ahead and write songs and eventually try and put down a live set of some sort.
It's fun. It's fun.
It's fun. And try and enjoy more the interaction with the musicians. I also have other projects that I call jams that I'm doing as we speak, where the concept is once you finish writing the song, like when you write a song with a musician and a singer, you have certain structures, so-called, that you want to follow harmonically, and in terms of verses, chorus, if you want to follow those sort of. But at the end of each sessions, I was talking to the musicians and asking them to go freely on a beat for a couple of hours and have a jam session and recording, in free flow. And I've been doing some records that I've been getting. They're still in test mode. The vinyl will be out in June for the first 4 tracks. They're getting a lot of support from Vega, Garnier, and all these people, Natasha Diggs. There are more for the club. Not many vocals, but still very musical. It's just a different approach. And
are you releasing those on Spotify?
Yeah, I will. But the main focus will be vinyl first. And then with no rush, we're going to release it digitally. And once the vinyl has done its course.
Because I think that's the concept that I'm kind of hashing out at this moment in time, is that not every record you put out has to go on Spotify or DS on streaming. It can go on Beatport. Why? I think... I don't think necessarily streaming is the best place for every type of record that we put out. I think it works better for certain types of records. If I'm writing strict club records, I don't think Spotify is the right place for it. I'd rather give it away for free to fans and to DJs and see what it does than go, here's a new record I wrote, go listen to it, go stream it. I'd rather go, here's a new club record I wrote. DJs, do you want it? Here it is. Fans, do you want it? Here it is, and see what it does in the market before releasing it onto Spotify. I think for me, I've been having conversations with distributors. I've been having conversations with label managers, majors, and the way that they're talking about that, like, you have to keep that algorithm for especially Spotify. You have to keep it strong. So the minute you start releasing a record that doesn't stream as well, in drastically less than what you would put out like previously, it just brings everything down, and then it takes a while to get back up. And I think this is just me, and this is kind of what I'm having conversations with the team, is like, not every record we write has to go, not every record we want to release has to even go on DSPs. Like, use your music as a tool to give to the community of what we do and why we do it.
That's for sure. Obviously, it's a point of view, but for instance, when I go and look for some artists, even from the 90s, like old school house or electronic or whatever, the first websites I hit are Spotify, Tidal, or Apple Music. And they're not necessarily streaming tunes. I just think that most of the people use those as reference to listen to music, and it would be a shame not to make those tracks available for the people that really love that sort of stuff. I understand this thing of the algorithm, but it's the same concept as the Instagram posts, for instance. If you post something that is good for your soul, but it's not good for the interactions that your algorithm lowers down, would you care? It's down to a personal choice, obviously. But yeah, for sure, if you do a track that is just like I would release it on streaming. But anything else that people will enjoy listening in the car, whether it's new wave, it's new age, or it's banging techno, I don't see why. You never know. You never know that the way a track can ride, to get to people's ears, So
that is very true. That's very true. Like, most of my biggest streaming records, you would never have thought. It goes back to what you were saying about Cash, where he'd say you'd never know what would do well.
And but obviously, as we say, we are acting in a time with its own rules, which are different from the past. So, and that's the reason why I'm trying different approaches to the album releases and the singles and stuff. Because it's a learning curve, and it's always a learning curve because things change so quickly that you just have to find the strategy that works better for you and for what you actually want from what you do. So I guess it's down to personal reasons for sure.
I agree, man. Dude, we've just done an hour.
Nice. We've just spoken for 10 hours more.
I know, we literally could. But let's do it again. Congrats on the album, man. I know how much work I know how much work it goes in to put in an album, and like, it's a fucking great album. I genuinely really like it. It flows as an album. Great records, great melodies, great instrumentalists on there as well. And you've nailed the production as well, dude. So, like, congrats. I can't wait to get more Riva Starr albums in the future.
Thank you, my friend.
Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me on, and we'll meet up at some point, as we said.
Definitely, man. Big love.
Ciao.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for listening. Thanks for getting involved. If you are listening and you want to get involved, please sign up, the link below, or you can come join the WhatsApp group, which is also in the link below. Peace.